Dukat is the new chief military advisor to the Tatapa console. We are treated to the best scene in the history of Star Trek. And Klingons do not forgive or forget. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. And today, sorry, that was probably, I'm glad I didn't see myself because that was probably a pitiful impression of the Gowron magical eyes that I can't do and nobody can do except for him, which is why he got the job. We're reviewing Season 4, Part 2 of Way of the Warrior, directed by James L. Conway, still written by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Awesome. How are you today, Cirroc?
Good. I'm doing well. We're getting into the meat, so it's getting really good.
I feel like if I just keep nodding knowingly that at some point you're going to be like, holy shit, you guys were right. Season 4 gets pretty crazy.
It's getting there. I'm feeling the tempo picking up, and it's like I said. It's just I feel like they're all the little missing pieces, like these other characters that we were humble cast. I like the addition of Worf. I think he's bringing a whole lot to this, especially given the fact that they're dealing with the Klingons heavily. I think he's a great addition for this show, and it's working well for me.
Yeah, boy, Worf does fit in seamlessly. It's one of those things that kind of feels like just a perfect fit because Deep Space Nine didn't have a lot of Starfleet presence in the middle ranks. You know, you have, of the Starfleet officers, you have Sisko, who's a captain now. You have Jadzia Dax, who's a lieutenant commander. Then after that, you have a doctor and, a chief, which is like the same rank as like an ensign or lower than an ensign. You don't have a lot of lieutenants or lieutenant commanders to fill out your ranks like most things do, because it was just a star system. It's a star base. But you had like Odo and Kira. So Worf kind of helps to fill that void to now we've got a little bit more middle management in there, you know?
Yeah, I like it. Plus, he just brings, I don't know, there's a certain level of like tradition that I feel like he's bringing to the mix. It feels more Star Trek-y, I guess you could say, with his presence. I also like the fact that he's dead center in the middle of this kind of Klingon-Cardassian dispute, and his ability to communicate with the Klingons and decipher certain things. For example, their attack methodology or their formations, whatever they're going to do, he kind of has the extra insight. So I enjoyed that aspect as well.
Yes. And boy, there's so much to talk about. Also, in my opinion, the best scene in the history of Star Trek, I don't know if you can guess what it is. Everybody who's watching or listening, make your guesses in the live chat or in the comments. Guess what is the best scene in the history of Star Trek, in my humble opinion. And very quickly, let's do a shout out to our associate producer, Mr. PJ Thomas of Orville Nation. Great dude. Orville Nation is awesome. You see him every once in a while in the free-for-all. He also introduced us to meteorologist Katie, who has also been in and out in a virtual TrekCon. Very cool. Yeah. We love the Orville. We love that family. We can't wait for season 3 to wow us.
Yeah, Orville has been really good to us, and we'd love to support them any chance we get. So thank you, PJ, for your love and support. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Orville. That's the one that's been missing. Star Trek has been killing it this year. The Orville, though, has been like silent. So hopefully they'll come back with a vengeance soon. Anyway, so let's talk about it. Everybody, please go over to patreon.com/the seventh rule to become part of the team for as little as $1. A free way to support us is to please subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, share this video, give us a like, give us a comment, send us some good vibes. If that's a thing. I don't know. Anyway, do you have a guess as to what I think is the best scene in the history of Star Trek? I may have tipped my hat in the past.
Yeah, this is no, I don't even have to guess.
You're like, you found the best scene ever in this episode?
In this episode? Like, I'm trying to go through my notes here and see what was the best scene. I'm going to guess, because I know that you like Mark Alimo and Gul Dukat's character so much, that it has something to do with him. But that's the best I've got right now.
That's a good guess. But to me, the best scene I've ever seen is the scene between Garak and Quark talking about root beer. That is the one that every time I talk with Armin, I want to bring that up. And when we spoke with Andy Robinson, we brought that up too, because there's just so much depth to it. There's so much innuendo. There's so much, subtlety and subtext in it. And it's just got the most good lines crammed into one scene. It's kind of like two parts. The first part is Quark is lamenting, oh, this is so tough. I've got this Kanar that I'm never going to sell because all the Cardassians are going to get wiped out. And Garak is like, oh, I'm so sorry about how the destruction of my entire race will harm your bar sales. Which is just beautiful. How, and he says, oh, I can see the appeal for you to want to talk with me. But then the second half is when Quark says, hey, why don't you try this root beer? I want you to try something. And Garak is so funny because he says, what is he? He says, oh, it's an earth drink. It's called root beer. And Garak looks disgusted. He's like, oh, I don't think so. I don't know. It's the first time
earth drinks.
It's the first time he actually looked like snooty, like, oh. And he's like, try it. It's so bubbly and cloy and happy. And of course, Garak tastes it. And he's like, oh, it's vile. But then he said it's like the Federation. Once you drink enough of it, you get used to it. You even start to like it. And Garak goes, it's insidious, which is a beautiful line. It's just like the Federation. Anyway, and they've both corroborated, both actors have told us that it was supposedly written to be serious. And when they practiced it, Armin and Andy over at their place, they played it with all of this subtext. The root beer thing about the Federation, they really added all this stuff. Originally they wrote it as a comedy, but these two played it dramatically and like as if there was so much importance and weight to it. And they like called upstairs to the producers when they performed it, because they're like, that's not at all how we saw it. And eventually they won and they had it their way. And thank God that they did, because that scene was going to be played comedically until the actors said no. And I think Armin said that was the first time he ever pulled his weight as an actor and said, call upstairs or call the producers, because this is what I'm putting my foot down here.
This is the way we rehearsed it, and this is, I think, the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember the scene. It's actually interesting because it was the first time I heard the Federation kind of referred to in this kind of a way, in this, comparative way, obviously using the root beer as the medium to make the comparison. But it was interesting because it was an opportunity or a moment where, they're actually reflecting on themselves. When I say they, I'm meaning the writers are actually reflecting back on what they feel of Star Trek. So it's almost an insight to also the writers' perspective, right? Not just the characters themselves. So I like that. I also like Quark kind of lamenting about his cousin being the weapons dealer and how he missed the opportunity to buy a moon.
Cousin Gala gets a NAM, you're right. And to my count, I believe that's 3. It may be 4, but I think that is number 3 in my notes for Cousin Gala owning his own moon.
Yeah, he keeps popping up, and clearly Quark has a thing about this guy being more successful than him. But yeah, I did like that. My favorite interchange in that scene was Garrick's line. And that was, Quark was doing this whole spiel about, I should have been a weapons dealer, but then he said, but then I wouldn't be able to have the chance to talk to people and do what I'm doing with you right now. And that's when Garrick delivers a line that I wrote down here as one of my favorites, was, your charms would be wasted.
Yes. And the way he delivers it is just, God.
It's such a dig. He's one of the best at giving you a dig and just delivering it right to your face without, pulling it back any punches. He just gives you the whole full punch.
Yeah. I mean, he's sopping wet with sarcasm. Right. It is just like the heaviest weight, just fucking, it's so good.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Andy Robinson has just perfected this particular style of communicating in this demonstrative way, and just being able to talk down to people, but be so pleasant about it, and so forthcoming with it. So I really enjoyed that line. Your charms would be wasted. You're
with a smile. Yeah. By the way, I didn't know what the word cloy meant, so I did look it up. I mean, we could guess based on the context, but it means, disgusting, but because of like an overabundance of sweetness. So if something is just so like kind of like root beer, if you don't have the taste for sweet things, something that is just so sweet that it's disgusting. So that's, I didn't know there was a word for that, but that's perfect for it. Just kind of like the Federation.
Yeah. I'm not a big root beer fan, so I can really sympathize with Garrick on that one.
How dare you? Who do you think is better or more sarcastic, better at the sarcasm or more at the subtext and sarcasm between Dukat and Garrick? Because they're both very similar in that way. Dukat is a little bit more arrogant and condescending, I'd say, and Garrick is a little bit more coy and almost playful, but they're both in the same family of delivery, I don't even, maybe I shouldn't even ask that question because they're both so good at it.
It's just, I actually look at it as respective to their characters. So because Dukat is in the position of authority and he still has his integrity amongst the Cardassians, so he has a different air to how he approaches it. He's actually talking down to Garrick in a way where it's more of a subservient way of talking down to him. I think Garrick is more clever at playing with this kind of language, because he takes the hit of whatever it is that you're talking to him about. He'll take the hit, but give it back to you almost as hard as you gave to him, even harder. So in tennis, for example, you have a great server, but if somebody can return the serve, then you can actually put that same pressure back on the server. So I feel like Garrick is the better at the return of service.
Mm-hmm. I also want to give a shout out to, sometimes there's an actor that does a lot with very little in their lines. The person that always stuck out to me years ago when I first started watching this was Bashir, where he would have one line in an episode or one line in a scene, and it was just like one or two words. It would be like, yes, sir. Yet he would figure out a way to deliver it such that there was extra meaning behind it. It wasn't just yes, sir. It was yes, sir. If he's like not feeling the, whatever Captain Sisko is telling him, or yes, sir, or, whatever it was, I was just like, wow, he's doing a lot with very, very little. And today I noticed Cassidy Yates doing that. So shout out to Penny Johnson-Gerald there, where she had 3 to 4 lines with Captain Sisko. And they were short, 3 to 6 words each line. But she was able to convey a world of meaning and depth. Like, I know you will. That's 4 words. But she delivered it in a way, she said, I know you will. Or whatever it was. I'm not trying to seduce you right now.
Thank you very much.
But she did it in a way that there was so much meaning behind it. It was, you know what I mean? Like, she added subtext, and that's the mark of a really good actress, to be able to do a lot with a little. And so she gets the Julian Bashir, the thing that Julian Bashir usually gets, she gets the trophy for it today, I thought.
Yeah, and I think she says something to the effect of "Don't get killed."
That's exactly it, right? Mm-hmm.
I think that was the line, the way she said it, and it was just the way she said it. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And the other thing that I noticed too, as well, is how radiant and beautiful she was on screen in this episode. I just took note. I was like, wow, she looks very beautiful in this hallway scene where the two of them were having that goodbye conversation. And you could sense the build up of a connection between the two of them. There was already something tangible between the two, where you feel like, they have this deep concern for each other. So I did like her performance in that moment. But now that we're talking about really subtle things that kind of take your attention, and sometimes it's one word, one line, and sometimes it's not even a line at all. It could just be, an action that the person does. But I enjoyed the scene with Sisko and Bashir, where Bashir was telling him, we're not allowed to cloak, in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
Right? Because the Romulans, we have a deal with the Romulans. And
like, he needs to remind Sisko. Sisko's like, right. I'm well aware of the deal I made with the Romulans. Right. But thank you, though.
Right. And so there was a moment where Bashir says, yeah, I won't tell the Romulans, and
I won't tell the Romulans if you don't.
Yeah, if you don't. And Sisko does a wink right there. He gives him a wink. It was really quick, and I don't know if you caught it, but there was a small, fast little wink.
I didn't catch the wink, actually.
Yeah, he gives him a wink. That was his response. It's like, I won't tell the Romulans if you don't. And Sisko looks at him, gives him a smile, and winks, and then he turns his head, like, let's go and do this. But I like the wink. And it just actually adds to me, there's a certain level of fluidity and looseness that I see Sisko having now that he's kind of
he's feeling himself.
Yeah, he's feeling himself in a way better way. So I think that actually adds to why the intensity of the show picks up and why it's even more interesting, because he is starting to feel himself. There's a comfort zone there. There's a looseness there. He's found his stride. He's no longer like trying to figure his way out and figure out who's who and what side people are on. Mm-hmm. I feel like he has, the full faith of his crew, and he also has the confidence of himself, knowing that he's going to make the right decisions. Because he literally disobeys the, Starfleet orders by cloaking, but he takes that risk, and he does it without even much trepidation. So I like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think what it is, in my opinion, I think basically what you're saying is it feels like Sisko has arrived. He's here. He found himself. He's arrived. He's no longer climbing up. He's no longer proving himself. He's no longer rising. He's there. He's arrived. He's now Captain Sisko. He's got that quiet confidence. The death of his wife is behind him. The adjustment to his new digs is behind him. The growth of going through the ranks is behind him. He's arrived. He's here. I also wanted real quick about Cassidy Yates, which you brought up. I noticed the same thing about her being gorgeous last time we saw her. And I wanted to bring it up, but it never really came up in that episode. I think it was like 2 episodes ago. But what I noticed was I had forgotten, or maybe I had never noticed because I was just a kid, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I never noticed how pretty she was. And I was like, and you're right, radiant's the right word. I was just like kind of blown away. I was like, wow, she's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
not only just gorgeous, and not only just like the camera was like eating her up, and
camera loves her.
Yeah, the camera loves her. She's she not only is beautiful, but sometimes it's difficult for beautiful people to project that beauty on camera. Somehow there's a lost in translation moment.
It's an energy that she puts out. Mm-hmm.
She puts that energy out, and there's the confidence, because I feel this confidence in her. She's like, she's a woman that knows what she wants and goes after it. She's not shy about it. But the appeal, the look on screen reminded me of the old school, I don't know, like Gone with the Wind kind of
interesting,
real like beauty that was just being portrayed in that moment. So I wanted to give her a shout out. Penny was just amazing in that.
Nice. Anyway, so I think I pulled us away from the Sisko talk, but yeah, this is definitely almost feels like a reboot of Deep Space Nine at this point. Just everybody, all of the characters have evolved in a way. New characters have been created. Suddenly there are political implications. It's not just the alien visitor of the week and the mystery, or the floating two-handed Melora thing that falls in love with Julian. But this is actually like galactic implications, things that have implications throughout the quadrant. The Klingons, Gowron and Martok together are awesome. It's just on just a huge scale now.
Yeah, because if where you felt limited before with just having the O'Brien and Bashir relationship, and you had certain pairings up, and you had the kind of routines of the things that you were used to, the argument between Rom and Quark. Now it's expanding and it feels alive. I feel Quark's bar really being a centerpiece now. I can see it. I can see why it's so relevant to all of these discussions. You can see it being the outpost for where everybody's meeting up, especially in the episode before this, part 1, where Worf challenges, I am Worf, son of Moog. Yeah. And so it just feels like it's all coming together in this kind of way where it's such a believable place. I'm actually feel like I'm watching a space station. And that's a whole nother thing that we're going to talk about later, I'm sure, which is the fact that the station is armed to the T and ready to go. And we actually see a station now engaged in these kind of battles. So I'd love to get into that too as well.
Let's take our break, and then we'll come back and talk all about that good stuff. We will be right back on the 7th Rule. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton. Yep. My name is Ryan Husk. Today we are reviewing part 2 of The Way of the Warrior, kicking off season 4 with a bang. Here are the trivioids that may or may not have made the cutting room floor. There's Apocalypse playing Dabo. I don't know if you notice him. Chief O'Brien and Worf reminisce about rescuing Picard from the Borg. That's a spoiler for you. Worf wants to join the Nyberite Alliance. which is the only time in the history of Star Trek that the Nyberite Alliance has been mentioned. I looked it up.
Okay.
Because that was the only time I'd heard of it, but I wanted to be sure. Quark is excited when his bar reaches 72 decibels. Dukat is the new chief military advisor to the Datapa consul. Remember that one? Dukat says Sisko is nearly Cardassian in his punctuality.
I like that line as well.
Another fun one is Dukat spots a Klingon on the Defiance Bridge when he says, "Captain, are you aware that there's a Klingon on your bridge?" Another one where Sisko's like, "Oh, I hadn't, thanks for telling me." Cousin Gala owns his own moon. We know that one. Deep Space Nine shows off its arsenal and flexes its muscles.
Yes, it did.
And Klingons do not forgive or forget. I will not embarrass myself a second time on the delivery of that. Deep Space Nine flexes its muscles. Am I right?
They did flex their muscle, and that's the one thing that I didn't know up until this point. I didn't know that the space station was armed to the T and that they actually can defend themselves. That's an interesting ad, and I like to watch the unfolding of that.
Right. Well, that happened specifically because of the Dominion. So once they had the threat of the Dominion, Starfleet really beefed up the defenses. And O'Brien even says, I'm kind of glad that there's the Dominion. This refitting, should have been done a long time ago or something like that. So now Deep Space Nine is like the Defiant in that it has more weapons than is standard for a ship or a station like that. And just in time, because here come the Klingons. And that was a cool space battle, right?
I did enjoy the space battle. I think that Galron and Martok are phenomenal. They're so fun to watch, and they're so good at what they do. They're very, very convincing as bloodthirsty Klingons.
They're great. They both have really good voices. One of the things that Star Trek likes in their alien actors is people with interesting voices. And J.G. Hertzler almost sounds like he's got a razor blade in his voice, the way his voice kind of just cuts through. And Martok, Bob O'Reilly, is just more of like, he's just almost got like a sinister or evil way of pronouncing things, which is really, it's obvious how those two got the job. You could see how, like, when they auditioned, people were like, oh yeah, definitely this guy. This is the one.
Yeah, they didn't get in on the old friend of a friend deal that some of us get in on. They got in on real merit. And I have to say that I really enjoyed the Galron Worf scene. I like the two of them. He's welcoming him in. He's like, "Hey, Worf, you have to join us. It's good. You're going to be a warrior again. We're going to restore, your name and glory and this and that." And Worf, I thought, had a really great moment too, because he has a moment where he has to decide, what team is he on? What side is he on? And Galron kind of threatens him and says, "I'll take away your honor, your name, your title, your social security number. You're going to be...
I'm going to take your bike lock."
Yeah, your bike lock. You'll get no pension. He was like, "We're going to remove everything." And Galron says, "You will have nothing." And I love Worf's reply, which is, "Accept my honor."
That's the one.
And it was pretty good. That's Worf. He's about his honor. He's about his integrity. He's about, that constant battle in himself, kind of questioning who his roots are and what his instinctual thing to do, and then also question it with his own kind of logic and say, well, it's not right if I do this. It's not right if I do that. So he has this battle within himself.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how that conversation started too, was that, when Gowron was trying to entice him to join him, Worf said, "Oh, well, I am bound by my oath." So that's kind of the whole point. Was he started off saying, "Look, I've made an oath to these people," and he's like, "but what good is an oath to people that have that do not realize how important the oath is or something like that. And Worf, throughout the whole thing, like you said, at the end, he sticks to his guns. He says, fine, I'll lose all that, but I'll still have my honor. He's honoring his oath, not for the people that he's honoring it to, but for himself, so that he has his honor. And that, yeah, you're right. That's Worf in a nutshell right there.
Well, it also shows me Bob O'Reilly, Galron was such a good matching. He was such a good pairing for Worf. Like he actually looked like the guy who could, not only kick Worf's ass, but like put him in, punish him with whatever it was that he was going to punish him with.
With eye lasers.
So I enjoyed that. Also, like the moment, it really was a little bit of a softer moment. You kind of alluded to it earlier with the Borg reference, but it was a O'Brien Worf moment. It was a moment where they get to sit back and reminisce on old times. You see now O'Brien has another friend around besides Bashir. Now he has somebody else he can talk to and bring back memory, kick up memories, and have a drink with. So I think that was also good.
Good, because Bashir's cheating on him with Garrick anyway, so he could cheat on him with more. He's like, oh, you want an alien friend? I got my own alien friend right here then. We can both have our alien friend that spends 6 hours in makeup.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I actually, watching this episode, I was thinking to myself how many different Klingons they had in this episode in the background. I was thinking that must have been a hell of a makeup day with, 25, 35 Klingons running around the station. A makeup nightmare.
We also got some Star Trek fight scenes, which they're just like, they're teaching young kids that if you're fighting a big, strong bully or alien or monster or whatever, that if you go...
Right. Yeah.
You're going to win. And the guy's going to go like this. The guy's going to go, oh.
Yeah.
And like the funniest thing is that once they get hit, they just stand there and wait for the next hit. They're like, oh, I got hit. What's good? And
yeah, it's a shock. It's a shock. Not many people are prepared to get hit with the double
axe handle. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dusty Rhodes elbow.
Yeah, but you see how effective it is when you watch UFC. You see it's used all the time.
Right. It's taught in the military.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
And the Sammy Sosa.
There's a sword in my hand, but there is no sword. My hand is actually the thing that'll be the sword. Yeah, no, that's a very effective punch.
Well, most people don't know this, but biologically speaking, and I only know this because I took extensive biology classes, but this meaty part here that's really like soft and squishy, it's actually gold plated under the skin. Like we create gold usually around like 7 or 8 years old. We start forming gold like right under there, and it's just like, that's why it's such an effective maneuver.
Yeah, if I don't have a hammer around and I want to nail some things into the wall, I'll do this. I'll double, you know what I mean? I'll double it up, and then it's the same as a sledgehammer.
That's like when I have to change a tire and I don't have a jack. I just prop my fist under the car and
lift. Yeah, no, I saw a few of those in the fight scene, but actually I enjoyed the bat lift fighting. There were a few bat lift fights. They prepared us a little bit earlier with the Worf going against Dax in the simulation in the holosuite, where we had Skeletor.
Yes. He-Man! I'll get you for that, He-Man!
And I enjoyed those fights. I like. There's a move that is often used when they do the bat lift fighting scenes. They kind of use it to swoop the foot of the person and it flips them over.
Sweep the leg. That's Karate Kid.
They do the sweep the leg. Sweep the leg. And they do the leg sweep, and it always makes the guy fly over and get knocked out. And I know it's kind of corny to see it used over and over again, but I just can't. I'm always waiting for it to happen. When is he going to sweep the leg? And of course, Dax did the sweeping of the leg in this one, so I was happy to see that.
And Worf did it to Dax in the Hollow Suite earlier. You're right.
Right. So it's a common Klingon move. You got to watch out for that leg sweep, otherwise you're down.
I feel like Klingons would rather just hack the leg off, right?
That's what I would.
Shouldn't they sharpen that batleth to where if they go like this, then the foot is separated from the ankle and you win? Because otherwise they're just like, you made my uniform dusty. Now I'm pissed.
Yeah, it's amazing how effective that leg sweep is, more so than just actually chopping the leg off. But so yeah, that was fun. It was good to see the little fighting scenes. The other thing I wanted to just talk about real briefly is the fact that Sisko was wearing a phaser on his hip when he was on the Defiant, and I don't know. There's something about it that I like seeing the captain walking around with a phaser on his hip. Normally you don't see them walking around like that. They're not armed, but I do like seeing him with it there. It just keeps it handy just in case somebody's acting up,
In case somebody gets out of line,
Exactly.
Whatever.
It's like having your 6-shooter right there on the hip. I liked it. It just makes him it looks a little bit more tough to me, just having it there.
I didn't notice the phaser, but that may happen more and more now that we are teetering on the brink of war. And with, like, as we saw, like, Klingons can just invade. Like, it's not just space battles. Like, they just pop on, they energize, and then they stand there and wait to be shot. But sometimes they get a chance to attack you, and that's when you need your phasers. Got to be ready.
Exactly. You know what? Did you notice that somebody got a NAM in this one?
Only Cousin Gala. Who was the other one? Did I miss one?
Jake got a NAM in this one.
How did I miss? I am so mad at myself right now.
Oh, yeah. That's when Penny Cassidy said, I spoke with Jake and he told me something.
Yeah.
And so
he said, you told me you're leaving. He said, I'll be back in 4 or 5 days. And she says, well, I'm leaving tomorrow. So we're going to miss it. That's not going to work for me.
So a little NAM for Jake. Yeah, I was in there. I was in on that.
Whew, don't get a NAM past Jake. Don't forget Jake.
You know what? You were earlier in this, you were giving a shout out to Bashir and his ability to deliver sometimes just one line, but it would be so poignant and just well delivered that it just stood out. And I think he did a little bit of that in this episode, in the scene where Dukat is beamed aboard the station.
Beautiful scene.
He's in the infirmary.
That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I reject this. I'm offended by this whole blood.
Yeah, and the arrogance that Dukat exhibits is like, even Bashir's like, wow, this guy's arrogant. Because he goes, Doctor, I find this whole thing offensive. And he goes, I find you offensive. Now hold out your arm or I'll have a security officer do it for you.
Yes.
Woo, Bashir.
Yes. Definitely. I thought that was pretty amazing.
By the way, real quick, going back to your NAM, that does tie Jake Sisko for first place with Nog and Keiko. 7 NAMs. Boy, this is really heating up. He's heating up.
He's heating up. Yeah. And by the way, when I was watching this, there was a moment where one of the security officers was upstairs on the promenade and looking for where the Klingons were beaming in. And he sees one and he shoots down at it. And the Klingon shoots back up at him and he falls from the top level down to the bottom level.
Yeah.
That was Dennis Matalone, our stunt coordinator.
This guy is everywhere. They need to just let him put his bandana on his leg as an officer too.
He must have died more times than any other person has died, right?
And that was a great shot too, by the way. I didn't pay attention to who it was. I didn't realize that he played a Bajoran there. Did he
Yes.
have his long hair? Was it in a ponytail or what?
No, they did something and wrapped it up, but it wasn't. It wasn't the
Yeah.
long hair. No.
Yeah, because I noticed the shot that they did, which was really cool, with the Klingon popping out and getting shot, and then the other one going like, whoa, and shooting back
Yeah.
and just coming down at that
Yes.
angle. It was really cool.
Yeah. That was our stunt coordinator, Dennis Matalone. So every time I see him, I
That
think to
guy.
myself, wow, that guy, he's always working. He's good for that. How about Morn being the first customer back when Quark opens back up? Morn,
Of course,
Morn is,
naturally.
what a loyal guy, man. He must, I don't know what he does. He must be born rich because he never works.
He's a kept man.
He's a kept man. The guy has unlimited Quark money, so he can buy all the drinks he wants at Quark's for some reason. But I'd like to know what he does.
It's something nefarious, you can be sure. If he's hanging with Quark and he's got money, but he's never working, what's going on with this guy? He's doing some trades on the DL that aren't too good.
I did like when Garrick was being lectured to by Ducat, and he tells him, "Why don't you go back to your little tailor shop and sew something?"
Oh, these guys, they give them such good lines, and then they double that line by knocking it out of the park. Yeah.
Yeah. They're both good in their own way at delivering that kind of just really condescending language. It's amazing. What's a toothless old Grishnar cat, though?
That is, I was going to make something up. I have no idea. I was going to, but I was like, nah, I can't think of anything.
No,
it's just some Klingon thing. Grishnar cat, I guess. We know that they have targs. Targs is like their favorite animal or beast to talk about. It's kind of like a boar or a warthog, but I don't know what a Grishnar cat is. Oh, Grishnar cat. That's
Grishnar.
A Grishnar cat was an animal with a fearsome appearance, which in reality was quite harmless. Okay, so that's the only reference, but that's why, is because it's like they're saying you look tough, but you're really toothless. You're really weak.
Okay, I see. I thought Sisko also had a really good moment. For one, I think the chemistry between him and Worf started off pretty quickly. He just got introduced the episode before this, and already it feels like, there's a bond between them.
Certainly a mutual respect from the beginning. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Even at one point, I think Worf said, "Captain, what's your order? What are you ordering us to do?" But I thought the best of that bond was expressed during the end of this episode, where Sisko kind of walks in with his papers and he says, "Here's your walking papers. I want you to review it before I send it into Starfleet." And that conversation between the two of them, I thought, was poignant for both characters. I thought it was important for Worf to kind of discover that that's what he wanted to do, and that he wants to be a Starfleet guy. But I also felt like Sisko in some way embraced it too. Like Sisko has a speech in which he says, a Starfleet officer, that's what I am. That's what I'll always be. And it was just like, I feel like it was almost Sisko was telling himself that, you've made it this far. You didn't walk away from so many times what you had opportunities to walk away. Obviously, in the beginning of this entire series, where he was going to, he didn't want the job of being Commander Sisko of DS9. He wanted to kind of walk away from the whole thing because of his wife. But he stuck it out, and he's continued to stick it out through different things. So I feel like he was telling himself, you know what, I'm a Starfleet officer. I've made this commitment. I haven't walked away from it. I'm still alive. I haven't killed in my ship. My crew's still here. And that's what I am, and that's what I'll always be. I think the always be part is also an acceptance moment for him. Like, I'm not going anywhere. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and Sisko does kind of look at Worf like, I've been in your shoes before, because just 3 years prior, he was in his shoes in one way or another, because Worf didn't lose a mate per se, but he lost his ship. He lost his crew. This takes place right after Star Trek First Contact, which was the Next Generation movie that took place right after their series finale. For my money, the best Star Trek movie. But at the end, spoiler alert, the ship gets lost. The ship is blown up. Everything's destroyed. So, Worf explains that he's been off vacationing, whatever, in the previous episode. He's just been trying to find himself. And so they both dealt with huge loss, Sisko and Worf. And so Sisko kind of knows what he's going through. He's like, oh, did you you lost your wife? I'm sure it must have been bad. You lost your wife? No, I lost a ship. Oh, that's real bad too. I feel real terrible for you. I mean, I only lost like my wife and stuff, but you lost your ship. They're going to build a new one, right? Yes, they're building it now. Well, then I'm sure it's horrible for you. But anyway, but I think that's where they bond is right there. Is about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did that whole First Contact element of this. I had no real conception of. So, so is that the reason why Worf is now being introduced on DS9?
That's why he's a free agent. Yeah, because Next Generation ended in '94, summer of '94, and then next they had the First Contact movie, which just kind of takes place after season 7. And at the end of the movie, the ship gets blown up and it's lost. And, so from there, they were just, Star Trek was like, all right, well, let's bring Worf over to Deep Space Nine. So the funny thing is, actually, no, that wasn't First Contact. That was Generations. Star Trek Generations, which was the first Next Generation movie. First Contact came out in like 96. So this was Generations, where the ship was lost, the Enterprise D, and then they had the Enterprise E replace it. But the funny thing is that Next Generation had 3 more movies after that Worf was in. So they kept having to come up with new excuses why Worf just happens to be in the neighborhood. Because remember, he's been transferred to Deep Space Nine, but he's still on contract or whatever to do the Next Generation episodes. So every episode was kind of like, oh, here comes Worf. We just rescued him, or Worf, what are you doing here? Oh, I happen to be in the neighborhood, or like. So it was funny. For 3 movies, they had to come up with an excuse for how he happened to be in the neighborhood.
Do they ever mention Deep Space Nine in any of those movies?
Not that I can recall. If so, it's just in passing. I mean, in First Contact, Worf is on the Defiant. So he's actually flying the Defiant, and when they're in a big space battle with the Borg. So that's how they meet up with Worf. Is the Defiant gets beat up, and they beam the survivors of the Defiant onto the Enterprise, and Worf was captaining the Defiant at that time. So that's the closest to a mention I can think of.
Oh, that's interesting. That adds a whole level of perspective for me, because I had no idea about that.
That's where the funny line of when Worf beams aboard, he comes to the bridge. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Worf, good to see you again." And Worf goes, "How is the Defiant?" And Riker, says, "Adrift but salvageable," was the line. Adrift but salvageable. And then, or someone else says that, and then Riker goes to Worf. He goes, "Tough little ship," and that's when Worf famously goes, "Little." I don't know why that's funny, but it sure is. we're actually got about a minute left here. If you got, it seemed like you had one more point you wanted to make.
No, I've pretty much covered most of the stuff in this that I wanted to talk about. You mentioned the Cardassian with your punctuality. You know, Sisko was nearly Cardassian with his punctuality. I like that line as well. Yeah. But no, I think overall this was a good episode. Great second part of a two-parter. A lot of action in this one, and it was just a good beginning to this fourth season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, where we're going to go, what's going to happen. I think we're in a good place. And my guess on this IMDb, the last one was a 9.1. I'm going to say this was like an 8.7.
Well, this was all one big two-parter, so it has the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Still a 9.1. I don't have my Picard tie. Hang on.
Uh-oh. Picard tie means it's time for the nitpick of the day.
Yeah, I need to be more prepared. Here we go. The nitpick starts when I pull up the tie. Here we go. Speaking of Picard. When the Klingons are being knocked out on the bridge or on the ops of Deep Space Nine, they just assume that they're not going to get up. You need to stun those guys. Just because you did the dreaded leg sweep and he falls on his back, how do you know he's not going to get up and kill you? You need to stun them. Every single one of the Klingons on that ops, you need to go by and be like, stun, 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 stun. Otherwise, they're going to get up and kill you, and they're going to say it's honorable.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we do want to say very special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Thomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Yvette Blackmon, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England out in Wales, and Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Mohammed Noor, Dr. Mohammed Noor, that is, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Rex A. Wood, and Bill Victor Arucan. We're going to see you on the free-for-all in just a second, everybody. Stay tuned for that. And we'll be right back with that on the Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the free-for-all. With the start, there's a guy right there.
Keep your feet on the ground and reach for the stars.
With Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
We're also joined by Eve England out in Wales, Nebraska. Commander Homer Frizzell, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Melissa Longo, TJ Jackson-Bey. Wait, did we already say TJ? No, out in Missouri. And Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Titus Mohler. And before we begin, TJ Jackson-Bey was telling us all about his reading material that he's going to read once he retires. Do we know what that publishing company is?
I do not know what the publishing company is. But I do know that...
is it? It's not IDW, is it?
It is, actually.
Oh, perfect.
It is. Perfect. So, yeah, I have this subscription with Eagle Moss where they send me two very nice hardback books, maybe every month or every other month. I've been getting them for about the past 4 or 5 years, and they are they're comics. Pretty much graphic stories, graphic novels. So many different names for them, but comics is what I like to call them. And they're telling, every one of them's a Star Trek thing. And when you line them up on the shelf, they make a picture and all of that good stuff. But some really great material that I just have not had time to read yet. But I'm looking forward to doing it when I retire, along with every novel I can get my hands on. Star Trek.
Wow. Well, guys, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I want to continue the conversation. That's why I was starting to get the panicked eyes. At some point, I was like, I want to be recording this. Let's all go around the table and tell us your favorite cake. Because you guys were talking about some pretty cool cakes. I think TJ mentioned caramel cake, which I've never even heard of, but it sounds really good.
Southern thing.
Yeah. Let's start with TJ. What's your favorite cake?
It is that. It is exactly that. The caramel cake, caramel glaze on regular cake, and it is just the most delicious thing in the entire world. And I haven't had one in a while, so if anybody is listening,
Send me that cake.
Deliver to the back of that
cake.
bus.
Nice.
All right. Anne-Marie, do you have a favorite cake?
Devil's food cake and strawberry shortcake.
Good choices.
I used to watch Strawberry Shortcake when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, me too.
Me
Cartoon,
too.
really good cartoon. I think it came after the Smurfs or something.
The Smurf.
Yes.
La, 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 la.
That was my favorite show when I was
yeah.
a kid. Written by Mark Zickery, by the way, guys.
Oh,
Who
No
knew,
way.
right?
This-
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Small world.
yeah, yeah. Favorite Smurf?
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Papa Smurf, man. Papa Smurf.
What about Jokey Smurf?
Handy.
He would go like, "It's a surprise!"
Oh, yeah,
Where
joke.
you got-
Oh, God.
I love this laugh.
What about-
You.
Hateful Smurf. I
Surprise.
like Hateful Smurf.
Oh, yeah. I like
Hateful
Grumpy
Smurf.
Smurf, too. Grumpy Smurf.
Sneezy.
Handy, man. Handy's the necessary. Like the whole village would have fallen apart if it wasn't for Handy.
Yeah.
True.
Andy
He's like
was
the linchpin.
Papa
Well-
Smurf would make a great captain.
Yeah.
I like
Oh my God, I so want to see that. I so want to see that. I want to see Smurf Trek.
Smurf Trek. Yes.
Yes,
That's-
somebody make that happen.
In Virtual
Yes.
Con,
Great.
I think the person who sold the the specialized action figures also sold Smurf Borgs. Smurf
Oh.
Borg action figures.
wow.
Because I was like doing some shopping and I was like, oh man, I should control myself, but these are pretty amazing.
I think I said the Smurf's ringtone.
What alien race is Gargamel then?
I was thinking
So
he's
cute.
Klingon.
He's for
Yeah.
any. Oh my god.
Homer does not approve. Homer
That
does
could
not
be
approve.
Ryan's ringtone.
Homer, what's your favorite cake?
In the past, it was strawberry shortcake
Okay.
and with crispy biscuits, but then you also have the strawberries that are on top, and so you have some that are soft, with heavy cream. But these days, it's a chocolate peanut butter ice cream cake.
Mm,
Wow.
mm. Don't want that.
Cirroc.
That sounded good.
I know, that does.
I think by the time we get around this, we're all going to go somewhere and gain 5 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
right?
there.
I think I've already done that.
Quarantine. You can do it.
Okay. Melissa Longo, you're a cake expert. What's your favorite cake?
My favorite cake is the molten lava cake.
Oh,
Very good choice.
Yes, with
very.
vanilla ice cream on top.
Yes, it has to have the ice
very
cream.
hot fudge in the middle.
Mm.
Oh, that is wow. That's a
Yeah,
big
the
win.
hot cold mix is so good.
Yes, and then the chocolate and the
Oof.
vanilla.
Oh,
And
son of a. Eve, the chocolate molten cake is something that Americans eat. It's 14,000 calories. And it's like this hot,
Yes.
moist. It might be. It's like this hot, moist cake, and in the middle of it is like melted chocolate, and then they put ice cream on top of that, and then they put melted chocolate on top of the ice cream that hardens on it, and it's usually like drizzled with like caramel, and it's just.
Yeah, we have those too, and you can buy them and put them in the microwave to have at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, that's good too.
Ooh, one step
Oh.
ahead of us.
Yeah, I guess they have those in England or in the UK then, huh?
Well, you can make them here.
I thought we were special.
No, nothing special about it. Nothing special. All cakes and desserts are available everywhere.
Mm.
I think you can go to Ethiopia and have cakes.
Susan V.
But
Gruner,
You
PhD.
can't have your cake and eat it too, though.
But you can't have a cake.
Watch me. With prune juice behind you, what's your favorite cake?
Is that prune juice or a glass of wine?
It's prune juice in honor of
Oh
War.
my gosh, that's amazing.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
In honor of Worf arriving on Deep Space Nine.
Yes, yes. My favorite cake is
Looks good.
I'm a baker, and I have a recipe. It's a really old recipe from Hellman's, I think. It has mayonnaise in it, but it's a chocolate cake. It's just, I know, I hate
Ryan's
mayonnaise.
face.
No, but the
Everybody's
chocolate
face.
cake is
Mayonnaise is
Titus
eggs.
was like, no way.
We're talking
know.
about cake.
Oh, I know. The mayonnaise is eggs. You know that, right? The mayonnaise
Yeah.
is really eggs. So it makes the chocolate cake really
Fluffy?
scrumptious. And I like it with mocha buttercream frosting, which literally you use a pound of butter and add coffee to it and some sugar. And together it's like 4,000 calories. I've made it, the frosting and the cake for my husband for his birthday. And there have been occasions where he's eaten the bowl of frosting, which has a pound of butter, before I put it on the cake.
Wow.
That's
So-
really good.
So what's the base flavor? Mocha?
That's the frosting. The cake is chocolate.
Okay. So it's a
But
chocolate
it has
mocha
the
cake
coffee,
with
it has
mayonnaise.
Coffee
Chocolate
too?
cake with mocha frosting. It is really good. I haven't made it in a while. It's very, very good. I'm
Huh.
a foodie.
Well, Titus Mohler, do you have a favorite cake that can get our appetites back in order?
Well, yeah, nothing fancy, but yeah, ice cream cake is probably my favorite.
Mhm.
That sounded like a pretty awesome combination that was mentioned before, chocolate and peanut butter.
Do you have a favorite ice cream?
Yeah, it's probably boring old vanilla in some ways. I do like vanilla, but I guess if you had to mix it up a little, I oftentimes get something called Fudge Royale, and also Moose Tracks. That actually has chocolate and peanut butter in there amidst chocolate. Sometimes chocolate ice cream, sometimes vanilla.
You know what they call a quarter pounder in London? It's called the Burger Royale. Isn't that from Pulp Fiction? Am I the only one that saw Pulp Fiction?
Not
Burger Royale.
Oh, I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's one of the lines.
It's a kilogram burger. Cirroc, do you have a favorite cake?
Yeah, I have a lot of favorite cakes, and I think everybody mentioned at least one of them. I love the molten cake. I love the strawberry shortcake, ice cream cake, as Titus was talking about. But I'm going to add to that list a cake that you can eat every day without any occasion, and that is the coffee cake.
Oh,
Yeah, that's my favorite
Yes.
too.
Little coffee cake with a cup of coffee. Oh, that's a breakfast of champions.
as he takes a sip. Dr. Muhammad Noor, do you have a favorite cake?
I do like all the ones that were said, especially the ice cream cakes, but one I tend to default to is I like those giant chocolate chip cookie cakes that you can get at the grocery store.
Oh, David.
I love those things.
Those are good.
Those are hefty.
Oh, yeah.
Do you just eat them straight up, or you put ice cream on them, or you dip them
Straight
in
up.
caramel?
Straight up is fine. I think I just like cookies more than cake, so I think that's why I tend to go to those.
Got it.
That works too.
Yeah.
Well, Eve England, you are also a baker. You make a lot of baked goods. Do you have a favorite cake?
Well, I mean, I do love all cake. But I have to agree with Cirroc actually. So one of my favorite cakes that we have here, and they sell little tiny ones, which is quite nice. It's like a coffee and walnut cake, and that's really good with a cup of coffee. Yeah. Yeah.
I just love
I don't know.
the
Food talk
Cirroc's
gets me
reaction.
Really excited. I wish I had something to munch on around here. I don't have
I
anything.
know. I was just like searching for open bakeries.
Boom.
The look on Cirroc's face was $1 million right there. That was so good. He's like,
Yeah.
no cupcakes, eh? No.
I just got food poisoning from a cupcake this week, so
Really?
yeah. Like
What was it?
I think like it was late in the day in the bakery, and they had been sitting out, and the icing went bad or something. So no cupcakes for Anne-Marie for a while.
Okay, we're gonna keep on this theme. You guys are gonna hate me for this, but for me, I thought for me my favorite cake is just any kind of plain chocolate cake, chocolate frosting, chocolate whatever. I don't like fruit in there. If you put fruit in there, it just ruins it. I mean, I'll survive, but the worst is when they trick you. When like you see this chocolate frosting and you're like, chocolate cake, yum, and then you cut into it and it's like yellow and fruity on the end. There's jelly falling, and you're like, man, and now you have this cake and you don't even want to eat it. Like, you tricked me.
Yeah.
But the molten chocolate cake probably is the champion. That's
I'm not a fruit cake. I'm big on fruit cakes.
So gross.
Fruit cakes, but you can have like a chocolate cake with a layer of hot, hot cherries.
You can make Worf a cake and put prunes in it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
A warrior's cake.
Worf makes a good birthday cake.
No, but that was what I was going to ask you guys. Match a character, any character on Star Trek, to their favorite cake, or we'll say dessert, to open it up here. I know this is.
Some are so easy.
Yeah. Okay, then we start with Dr. Anne-Marie Segal.
Oh,
Yeah. You got it, Anne. You could do it.
I'll take the easy one, which is just that, like, obviously molten lava cake is Troy.
Oh yeah,
that's easy.
Obviously, is that a?
Oh,
she loves
like,
chocolate.
That's like one of the few things we really know about her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oof, that is a good match. That's true.
I have one.
Okay.
I'm going to say, before anybody else does, I'm going to say Tilly and the strawberry shortcake.
Okay. Solid.
That's good.
I got one too.
All right.
Wait, but she also likes ice cream.
Okay, put ice cream on it. That's good.
Tillamode. Tillamode. What's your idea, Sue?
A 7 of 9 with cheesecake.
Okay.
Remember, she starts.
That's right.
I remember what episode it was.
That's when the doctor was in her body.
Right. And she's cheesecake is
amazing. Good deep cut.
Nice.
Titus, do you have a character and dessert in mind?
I do not. You've caught me off guard here. I don't know. I was trying to think. Worf, he talked about cake in that 7th season episode where it changed from yellow chocolate to yellow or something, but he didn't want that surprise party at all. So I don't know if he wanted either one of them.
Yeah.
Wait,
Riker says, I love surprise parties.
But there is one where
Worf likes
like,
a cellular peptide cake with mint frosting.
Excellent knowledge. Excellent knowledge.
Wow. That was great.
Oh, I got one. O'Brien's favorite is O. Cake O.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that any further than that.
Oh, God.
I think that was pretty good.
I think that was worth 10
Homer,
points,
no.
right?
Thank
No,
you.
me and Homer say no.
Thank you.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you have a character whose favorite dessert they'd like to eat? Or I don't know how to word this thing anymore.
I see, it's so hard. I was gonna say Sisko and coffee cake with his Roctagino.
Oh. Okay.
Good one.
Okay.
For Janeway. Janeway's big on coffee.
Oh, that too.
Okay. I can see that.
Gonna go so badly with Jake's orange juice.
Mohammed, can you match a character to their favorite dessert?
I was just gonna
they
say
like to eat?
jokingly. Say T'Pol always says things were too flavorful, so T'Pol's would be a baguette.
Amazing. Love that with some really bland tea.
I'm almost at the end. I'm halfway through season.
Oh, so you know that Reed loves pineapple? Weird pineapple.
Yeah, that's pineapple cake. Yeah, you have to get those shots for that.
You like the hummingbird cake then.
Just
I got a curveball one. I'm going to go with Charles Tucker III,
Okay.
and he likes pancakes.
Good call.
Okay.
Oh, okay, with the pancake action. I like
He seems
that.
more like a waffles guy, though, doesn't he?
That's
Maybe he's
fancy.
just a
Nah.
breakfast food guy.
Nah,
He's from
pancakes.
Florida.
And then for dinner, some fried catfish.
Oh yeah.
I
do you
can't
call them,
talk about
pancakes?
grip.
What do you call them, pancakes, or do you call them flapjacks?
Oh.
I think both, but that's
Maybe.
a good one.
Stacks, short stacks.
Yeah, he would call him something not normal.
Well, Eve England, do you not normal?
I mean, not pancakes. Something more country.
Eve England, do you have a character and their favorite dessert they enjoy eating?
Not really, but I would say I think Odo would have something pretty boring, but I can imagine him eating a Christmas cake because it's got different textures, and I think he'd be the sort of probably enjoy a sort of complex type cake, even though it's pretty gross. I think yeah, Christmas cake.
I love that.
He does like textures. Well, Homer,
It's all on you.
Yeah, this is the moment.
So all the great answers have been taken, which means I can just mail it in. So I don't remember anyone having dessert on the original series, but even so, what I want to say is Scotty and Scotch whiskey.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like a
whiskey
digestif instead of a dessert per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of those
Now
alcohol
when
cakes.
when I'm watching, I have to pay special reference to what everyone is eating. Thanks, Ryan.
They eat all those weird like Play-Doh colored things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They have those
or
little
the
squares.
Maybe like
Jello
really
squares.
Yeah, so maybe like really festive fruitcake or Jello.
Do you think like
pecan pie as well?
the what?
There's always in Enterprise. There's always in the food thing. It looks like slices of.
Oh yeah, they love.
I think you're right.
Pecan or pecan pie.
Yeah, depending if
But
you're
that's not a
Janeway or
cake.
not, how you say it.
Yeah.
I think Trippy.
You know what?
got
In
it once.
Caretaker, she says.
Yeah, he did. He
Hi.
did.
Do you think that since Malcolm Reed is English, he likes pound cake?
I like that one.
I forgot. That's one of my favorite cakes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, and I
mean-
think we should mention Q. Q's dessert of choice
Oh, yeah.
would be 10 chocolate sundaes that he never eats.
Amazing. So good.
And what was it? Wesley Crusher had the banana split going on with Joe No on
Yeah.
Suddenly Human. Yeah.
Yes. I just saw that episode. Oh my goodness. Good one.
I think Stamets would like a mushroom sport cake. Oh, I like that one. No, Homer.
Nice.
Homer says no.
I was trying to find the reference. There was one, it was a first couple seasons episode where Sisko was at the Replomat and he ordered something, I forget, it was something like, I forget the exact terminology, with an Emmeline peel. Like he had a certain way he pronounced it, but he had a full dessert in mind. And I think Kira was there trying to get something from him, and he was focused more on his food at the time. But I could look that up. That would be the dessert I might think for Sisko.
Fun.
You guys know what Feckler's favorite cake is?
Becklar, you mean?
Whatever. Feckler. Who gives a feckler,
I
right?
was like, who are you talking about? And then I remembered you mispronounced his name once.
Are you talking about the feckin' King Klingon devil?
Yeah,
Yep.
and Devil's Due comes for
Yes.
one.
Oh, like a devil's food cake type thing. Is that what
Oh.
you're thinking?
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't say it right again, Anne Marie.
What?
Jeez.
Well, speaking of
Yeah.
Klingon
Pronunciation
mythos,
guys.
What
speaking
series
of Klingon,
no?
Wait, what'd you say?
Oh.
Wait, what'd you say, Melissa?
What series is he in?
He's in like TNG Devil's Due for 1 second when like
Yeah.
Ardra is changing into like
Ardra.
what she could
I
be.
am
And she's like a really scary, like
Yeah.
drooly Klingon for 2 seconds. But he is he in like one of the movies too though? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
He's like talked about other times.
He was
but-
very drooly.
think
like they definitely blew their budget for that episode in that 1 second.
Hmm.
yeah, she did a bunch of different devils.
Dude, I love Ardra.
Yeah.
She's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
But here's one I've been hanging on to. Speaking of Klingon mythos,
You've been clinging on.
Titus
Klingon
Titus Mohler tried to slay Kahless. Yeah. So Kahless slew Mohler and became the emperor of all Klingons.
Oh, was
Oh, okay.
it was Molar was the Klingon before him? I don't remember that. Okay.
Wait,
It's in that song they like to sing.
Jerusalem.
Klingons don't sing Jerusalem.
Melissa, is that,
learning
is
more
that
about my
Rambo behind
history.
you?
What?
It's
Is
Ducat.
that Rambo behind you?
It's Ducat. It's
Yeah, I
not
was going
going
to
the
say
whole
that
thing.
I've seen this
Looks
image.
a little Sylvester Stallone-ish, but that's Ducat. Okay.
I don't know.
Wait,
It's
is he wearing pink lace?
He's
like in a unicorn
very
outfit.
pink, and he's a unicorn.
Yeah, he's a pretty unicorn.
Yeah. That
There's a
girl.
full full picture. It's,
Yeah.
this thing kind of cuts it off, but it's a great picture. It's a great image.
Yeah, it's really funny. And so, yeah.
You know, before we go, does anybody want to talk about The Way of the Warrior? I don't know if you guys had any thoughts
Yeah.
on that, because it was such a great
Oh, yeah.
two-parter, and it really launches the 4th season. I didn't want to mean to get us too stuck on cake, but this is also a great
This
episode.
is food related. Did we talk about this last week? How I wish when Worf got to the station, he went like right to the Replomat because he loved that like disgusting pasta that he had there with Geordi in Birthright in TNG. So my headcanon is that he was super excited to get to Deep Space Nine so that he could have this pasta again that he loved. But we didn't get to see that scene.
Well, we did
Anybody
not.
else?
Really amazing classic scene on Star Trek TNG. You know, where he's like eating with Geordi, and it's one of those classic Worf loves the food that's really bad to everybody else. I just love those moments. But we didn't get it.
Bummer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, I think you characterized it a little while ago, Ryan, as when you were telling Cirroc, you said this is when it gets really good.
Hmm.
And I really do feel like, yeah, this is, you know, it's cool that I feel like in some ways the show really begins with this in terms of its overall mythology. You might like this reference. I literally have looked at the first 3 seasons of the show for a long time as a Silmarillion of sorts. It's almost like it builds up an encyclopedia of the DS9 world. It dabbles in Maquis. It dabbles a little in the Dominion. And but this, I feel like, is when the whole Dominion arc and everything really begins in earnest.
Right.
And it's interesting how you can track it with Sisko's hair, you know, and now he's
Yeah,
got
totally.
the full bald look.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ron Moore, or maybe it was another one of the writers. I remember reading somewhere that said they just noticed in dailies that Avery, he just inhabited scenes that he came across differently. They said that you could have an intimidating Klingon or whatever. Sisko has the most gravitas. He's the one that everyone needs to take up,
Yes.
stand up, and take notice of in the scene. So.
Everybody at home, the Silmarillion, in case you don't know, is a kind of like an extended encyclopedia for Lord of the Rings. It's a very boring book because if you love the Lord of the Rings, you're really excited to read the Silmarillion. and that excitement wanes within like 20 pages. You're like, oh, this isn't telling a story. This is information.
Yeah, and I wasn't certainly trying to call the first 3 seasons boring, but I just do feel like, yeah, there just seems to be the Dominion arc beginning in earnest at this point, and they continue to pick up threads about the Maquis and stuff, but I do, it just does. It feels like this really, DS9 comes into its own in terms of its identity, and those first 3 seasons were necessary to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
I love some of the lines that Garrett got after he got the crap beat out of him. I loved what he said.
Oh, so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Several very cutting remarks. Permanent damage to their egos.
Will cause serious damage to their egos. Yeah, it's great.
And does this, I think this 2-parter has the classic back and forth between Odo and Quark about his old disruptor, right? That he was going to defend his bar with.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, am I right about that?
Yeah.
I should have looked at it beforehand, but I still remember.
I don't think that was
I'm
this
gonna
one.
defend.
I don't remember that.
I think it's later in the season.
And Rom had,
Okay.
The one that's similar, the one that did happen was, I mean, there was Garrick and Ducat that kind of have like face off, but then Garrick goes side by side with him. And Odo does talk with Bashir, saying like, you know, he'll protect him. And then Bashir says, oh, the last thing I need is a firefight in my med bay, or whatever he says. When was that?
That's the same episode that Titus was just referencing. I can't remember the title.
No. The one I'm talking about is what we just saw.
Oh, I thought they were both.
What was the episode?
No, that wasn't
Quark?
Yeah, it was, because the Klingons were coming on and Odo was going to station security outside the bar, and Quark said, no, I'm going to defend my bar myself with this trusty phaser. And they open the box and finds out that Rom has taken the phaser and used it for parts for fixing the bar.
How do that happened this
I
episode?
don't know how we missed that. I don't know how I missed that.
How do we both
and then
miss that?
I love how Quark says, Rom, I'll kill him. And Odo goes, with
what?
Yeah. See, I do remember that scene, but I don't remember seeing it.
I can never just watch like 2 episodes. So every time I turn it on, I watch like 10, and then I can never keep straight like which one happens in which. They're so good, and they like run together, and especially now, it's like one amazing one after another.
Yeah.
Possible to turn off.
That's funny. Because if that's the case, Cirroc, we have to put an AM in for Rom, but now I have to find out if this was really this episode or if it's a future one.
Well, I watched it last night, so.
So you can confirm it was this episode? And Cirroc and I just both missed it.
I missed it. I don't know how I missed that.
That's so funny. Well, Titus and Melissa get the points and we don't.
Like a temporary capture.
I read something that what we see parts 1 and parts 2 on Netflix is missing something, and I guess if you buy the DVD set, there's more. What was cut?
Interesting. I don't know. Definitely that was on Netflix, because that's how I always watch it.
Well, then what that means.
See what I've missed.
I never heard this.
What that means is there's now a 4-way tie for 4th place, or for 1st place in the NAMs. There's Jake, Rom, Keiko, and Nog, all with 7. For those of you.
Oh my goodness!
Molly
Jake
has
and Nog
5.
are neck and neck.
Yep. Molly has 5. Grandegasek has 4. Morn and Cousin Gayla have 3. Cassidy and Jennifer Sisko have 2. Everybody else has 1.
Oh, so we took Curzon out of the running?
Yeah, because that's like he's always gonna be all day. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Awkward. Who paid you off to take Curzon out?
Odo.
Yeah.
Curzon's kind of
Was it Odo?
He is there, so it's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, for the next episode, everybody's gonna need one of these.
Oh my goodness!
I cried.
Oh my gosh! Is Kleenex sponsoring the next episode?
They should.
Titus, I have to agree with you. I think that Sisko has a little different gravitas with this bald head and the goatee. There's like a comfort level. He seems more in command, and He actually more playful in some instances. I just feel like he's really stepping into his own with this look, and it just makes him feel that much more comfortable because it comes across in his performances.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And he must have liked that blue dress that Cassidy wore in the beginning of part 1.
Oh, he loved that blue dress.
Sisko
yeah.
also had some
It was
tough
so cute.
decisions. You know, they're on the way to help Ducat, and there's the debris there. And Bashir's like, wait a minute, what do you mean? We can't stop. There might be survivors.
Right.
And you get this, like, he's switching into his war mode that we see later. And he just keeps on going.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
That was-
great.
For the good
That
of
was
the
kind of-
mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't cover that, Cirroc. That was a really good moment because that's kind of the first time we see Sisko kind of making a hard decision with other people's lives like that I can remember.
I think, I think so. He makes also another decision in this one to kind of go against the agreement they have with the Romulans about cloaking and in Alpha Quadrant. So he makes a couple of tough decisions in this one where he's like, I got a job to do and there's a bigger picture, so he's kind of weighing that out.
Also appreciated on the Defiant as they were going in. Worf wasn't actually at the weapons station, even though he's a weapons officer, and he didn't go there until
the other person got
the other person got knocked out by the
I'm glad you brought that up because that person survived. And the way I know that person survived is because I saw her at the helm on Voyager.
Yeah, she got transferred. It was you can't man the ships over here. You got to go to Voyager.
I also saw her as an operations officer before that on Next Generation. So she's been on quite a few.
She's
ships.
well traveled.
Yeah, she was on Next Generation. She was an operations officer on Next Generation. She was a security officer on the Defiant, and then she was back to an ops officer on Voyager. I confirmed that with IMDb. So
how did she beam into Voyager?
Long range transport.
How did she get there?
But not at warp
The
speed.
caretaker singled her out.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good question.
You know what? In this episode too, I think Sisko says to Worf, "Fire at will, or fire your, shoot
Target
as
at
you
your
want."
discretion.
Yeah, your discretion. And I don't know if I've ever heard somebody say that. Normally they're like telling you what to do, but there's like, Worf, you figure it out since you know what's going on. That's
like
the first time I kind of heard that.
That's like that meme where Picard goes, "Fire at will," and Riker goes like, "What did I do?"
I never thought about what that means. It's weird that Captain Picard always says that. Like, you just decide.
Well,
it means everybody, you guys handle your business. I'm not going to tell each one of you to shoot when and who and how. Just
they're experts
Just go
in their
shoot the enemy. Shoot the enemy. That's it.
They should know what they're doing.
Right.
Good point, Melissa.
That's probably
other
one
thing
of
we
the few
saw-
instances where Worf got to have his own way, because I've seen compilations of Worf getting shut down on Next
Yes.
Gen.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was the one there. Like, all right, do whatever you want, Worf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Finally.
Now, we also saw that the space station has, it's equipped to defend itself, which I always thought it was a sitting duck just sitting there, waiting to get blown up. But clearly they armed DS9 itself, which was pretty cool to see it popping out with the gun turrets and lasers, photons, and all this stuff was flying out of there. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Agreed.
Oh, really fast. I know it has to do with Discovery, but it's no spoilers or anything. In the Ready Room today with Will Wheaton, they show, like, somebody posted in the group already on Facebook, but in the background, like behind the writers, is a little Deep Space Nine model.
I did see that.
Which is really exciting. So maybe there'll be some more deep cuts.
Ooh.
Maybe one of the trills will be Dax.
That's what we're hoping.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Well,
Real quick, I'd
Yeah,
be
yeah.
remiss not to mention, I think some fans have said they feel like it was their favorite scene of the whole series, and it was the root beer Federation analogy scene.
See, Cirroc?
Eric and
Oh, yeah.
Paul
That's
and-
I
Ryan's
guess you're not the
favorite.
only one, Ryan. I thought you were
Ryan's
pulling a
also
I think that's the
Rap
best
after
scene in the
that.
history of Star Treks.
It has its own like T7R non-appearance mentioned by Ryan. That's like you've mentioned it at least like 5 times on
mentions
the
that.
show.
Or does he mention Hoshi more?
Oh, hard to say.
So is that scene so memorable because they're making this comparison of root beer and the Federation? Is that the what's the?
And
what's
I
the
think
big
maybe-
thing about it?
Yeah, maybe I think it's that, and also maybe it highlights what DS9 really brought to the foreground, which is the non-Federation characters and how they look at the world.
Right.
So while our heroes are off in the middle of some adventure, we cut to the guys who very much depend upon the Federation for stability, but are outside of it. So that might be part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Deep Space Nine is about the others. It gives insight on the others, which is awesome. And we only see things from the Federation point of view, and Deep Space Nine's really good at giving us the point of view of the others. But for me, the reason I've always thought it was the best is just because it's just the dialogue is so brilliantly written and the acting is so brilliantly performed, you know, with the subtext, with the, you know, it starts off with sarcasm and zingers that Garak is giving to Quark. And then the second half of it is Quark, you know, telling him about the root beer. And it's a perfectly written scene, and it's perfectly acted, and it was beautifully interpreted by the actors. I just can't find a better scene in Star Trek, and hardly in anything I've ever seen than that one, personally.
Armin actually talked about it on the show the first time he was on Seventh Rule.
Right. Yeah, we covered that earlier, yeah. And
yeah.
Andy corroborated that story, too.
Amazing.
I always I like root beer, and so I felt a little. I love Garak's an awesome character, but I felt a little alienated from when he was like, "Ooh, it's vile." But I always like to think that once he discovered that it was insidious, I think maybe he started to like it then.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's like, maybe I'll give it a second try.
Try A&W.
It starts
So
to
good.
grow on you.
Cirroc, what's
I
your
do love
favorite
root
root
beer.
beer?
None. I don't like root beer at all. So I felt the exact same way that Garak was feeling when he took a sip. I thought it was. I think root beer is insidious. But I did like the line that Garak gave when he was, you know, being sarcastic, and he tells Quark that your charms would be wasted.
Yeah.
I just love that delivery of that particular line. I thought it was fantastic.
Even
Do you
with your
have a
floats.
NAM count for Gala's moon?
I think it's all three of them.
At least
I think it's all three of Gala's mentions have been with the moon. Anne Marie, what do you think?
no.
You're usually all about Gala for some
I
reason.
know, I love Cousin Gala
I
so
don't even
much.
know why.
He and Felix are my favorites. I don't know. I feel like occasionally he is mentioned without the moon, but mostly.
Do we all have a
It's always
cousin
there.
Gala in our life where your parents or somebody's comparing you to that person?
Like my real cousin.
That's a good question. Eve?
Man,
Not that I know of.
no.
Kane just kicks that to Eve right away.
She was a little too quiet.
I had an observation. So after Virtual TrekCon, watching the scene with Martok and Galron
Thank you.
side by
Yes.
side on the bridge,
Oh my
I
god.
could not
Yes.
help but seeing
Yeah.
like them doing like puppet behind each other's back while they're trying to be serious with Sisko.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the same thing written down. I can't look at some of the things.
Really? You too,
So
Sue?
hilarious.
I have them tonight with the Roddenberry show.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
At
nice.
8 to 10.
Yep.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I think that they're such an awesome pair.
Totally.
It's just like you could watch them pretty much go on and on with their scenes. I just love watching them.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Should we blow them up? Should we not? Should we keep going? And actually, there was a line. I think he said they were trying to convince him not to continue, and he said something about not destroying and living to fight another day. It was one of those kinds of
Yeah.
Right.
things, where you would still have honor as a Klingon by turning around and surrendering and leaving at that moment, so you can still retain your honor. I thought that was kind of a good rationale for why they were not going to just go until they died.
Anybody remember that quote? Because it was a quote that they were actually quoting like some old famous Klingon Shakespeare or something.
Destroying an empire to win a battle is no victory.
Yes, and
Wikipedia.
And ending a battle to save an empire is no defeat.
this guy.
Nicely
Out
done.
of
This
control.
guy, very good,
Points
TJ.
down. No
You
one
are
rivals
on it.
TJ.
Yes.
He is on it.
No, I'm
Wow.
rivaled. I met the rival.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I've watched that scene probably in an ungodly amount of time. So since then, what's it been? 25 years more.
It's hard
yeah.
to believe.
And it's so heartwarming the way that Dax sort of helps guide Worf into giving him a nudge into what Klingon culture is, because Worf's always wanted to have that more in his life, but has never really had a Klingon Shadich. So it's really sweet, watching him get to embrace his culture more and be more involved in it and not feel as ostracized, even though obviously at the end of the episode it doesn't have the best turnout for him with his people or with his species. But it's just nice to see him feel like he understands his race. After
I have a question
struggle
for you
for
guys
7 years.
to answer, since I'm completely in the dark about it. They mentioned in this episode Worf's kid, and he says, "My son is better off on Earth with his mom," or something.
Yeah.
Who's his mom?
Yeah.
Grandparents.
Yeah, well, grandparents. Yeah. So who's the kid? When did they show the kid?
The kid is a
Who's the mom?
fan favorite. Everybody loves Alexander Rozhenko. I'm just kidding.
He was introduced in Next Generation when his mate
He's
came,
so
who was half Klingon, showed up with the kid, and then she got
Kelly.
killed, so he ended up stuck with the kid. But then
Taylor, Ryan.
but then he shipped the kid off to his parents.
Yeah, Worf has no
Okay.
luck with women, that's for sure.
Well, he dated
Not
Deanna
yet.
Troy for one episode. That was it.
Oh, really?
Spoiler.
Everybody, do not marry this guy because you will die.
Yeah, so Alexander Rozhenko presumably is in Russia with his parents. What are his parents' names?
Kiev. Nikolai
Kiev.
and
Natasha? Natasha?
no, it's something very Russian too. Let me look it up. I should know.
So wait a minute. So Worf had a kid with this
Olga's
woman
not Russian.
Yes.
that ended up dying?
Yes,
A woman ended up dying. Yeah.
woman ended up.
But
Dying
Worf
ended
didn't know he had a baby, so he just found out the same episode that Kalar dies that this kid exists, and he's probably 5 or 7.
Hellier?
Kalar. Shut up.
Kalar. Kalar showed up on
Messing with me.
TNG and said, "Surprise."
Here's your kid.
Okay, well, we got to go. Hurry, Anne-Marie. Hurry, get it under the
I love
gun.
All
It's-
my searches are coming up. Are Worf's parents Jewish?
Okay, let me see.
That I'm trying to
Nikolai
find, but it's just so
and-
funny.
Nikolai was his foster
Nikolai's
brother.
his brother. Yeah. It's,
it's Sergey, right?
Sergey, yeah.
Okay. Sergey and something. Helena.
Oh, yeah. I love his
Good job.
Thanks.
adopted parents. They're so cute.
Anyway, this was fun.
Yep.
Let's all go eat some cake. Let's just go nuts. We've earned it.
Let's eat Let's eat cake, or whatever Marie Antoinette says.
Yeah, let them eat cake.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much for joining us. Eve England, I know it's late where you are. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Commander Homer Frizzell, Dr. Susan B. Gruner, Melissa Longo, Dr. Mohammed Noor. That's first contact. How many pips are on there?
I didn't put the pips on.
Okay. Unlisted.
You said unlisted, man.
Yeah. Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. Thank you all very much for joining us. Cirroc Lofton, always kicking Boojack for us.
Oh, yes. I love kicking that Boojack.
I know. Boojack City. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. And as always, remember the 7th rule.